Here is a pagan chariot sunwheel designed for sun god worship and taken from the pagan temple of Kararak in India. This temple was associated with the occult and astrology. Some suggest such things are what 2 Kings 23:11 was referring to when it says, "He removed the horses that the kings of Judah had dedicated to the sun at the entrance to the house of the Lord, by the chamber of Nathan Melech, the officer who was in the court, and he burned the chariots of the sun with fire." Now look at this aerial image of the plaza at the Vatican in Rome. You should see an identical pagan sunwheel on the ground. The following photo is an artifact described as a basalt offering table, pillar-shaped, with a carved symbol of Baal on its side. That symbol was a circle with a cross in the center. So here we have an image that represents Baal. Now let's zoom closer into the center of the sunwheel in the middle of the Vatican Plaza, and we'll see this. You'll notice around the base of the obelisk the symbol for Baal. This symbol is quite often represented in a more simple form like this. Many pagan traditions consider this to be their main symbol for transmitting the energy of the goddess and claim it represents the sacred earth. It also represents power and supremacy. So through this symbol they are declaring the power and supremacy of the pagan goddess Ashtoreth. The Catholic Church may also see it as declaring their own supremacy over the earth. And what about the obelisk right in the middle? The obelisk is a phallic symbol of Baal and is mentioned several times in the Bible. In Hebrew, the word matzdaba means something stationed, i.e. a column or memorial stone, an idol, a garrison, or a standing image or pillar. The word matzdaba is used in the following verses. So we can see from the multitude of verses that not only were they extremely prevalent in ancient times, but that God utterly despises them and would have them destroyed and turned into dust because they represent the satanic Baal and Asherah. And yet the Catholic Church has set one up right in the middle of their plaza. This particular pole was taken directly from ancient Egypt, where it was worshipped as the dwelling place of the sun god. It is the largest in existence and now takes pride of place in the centre of Catholic HQ. Now why would a Christian organisation take a sun god monument that God repeatedly says should be destroyed and set it up in the middle of their city? The following is also a symbol for Ashtoreth. This is called the sun sign, and if you were to look down from directly above the Vatican obelisk, this is a fairly accurate representation of what you would see. A dot within a circle. What does it mean? Well, remember, the mystery religion is obsessed with sexuality. In this symbol, the phallic obelisk is represented by the dot in the center, and the circle itself is the feminine part, or the womb. By placing the phallic pole within the circle, it represents a sexual union between the male and the female. We see these symbols replicated time after time in Catholicism. For example, notice the symbol of Baal on the papal stole here. The following is also to be found in Rome. It supposedly depicts Peter. However, this statue was actually removed from the Pantheon in Rome, where he once represented Jupiter, a form of Baal. He is one of those renamed idols I mentioned earlier. You will notice the sun wheel on his head, and the symbol for Baal behind him once more on the wallpaper. You may also notice that his right foot has been worn away from the kisses that people have placed there over the years. This practice of kissing idols is also borrowed from Babylon. In 1 Kings 19:18 it says, "Yet I reserve 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed down to Baal, and all whose mouths have not kissed him." This perhaps gives us deeper insight into the words Jesus spoke to his betrayer in the Garden of Gethsemane. In Luke 22:48 he says, "But Jesus asked him, 'Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?'" Was Jesus at least partly so disgusted with this act because it had a blasphemous connotation, placing him on a level with Baal? When we refer to Revelation 17, which talks about the mystery religion in the last days, we read, "The woman was dressed in purple and scarlet, and was glittering with gold, precious stones and pearls. She held a golden cup in her hand, filled with abominable things and the filth of her adulteries. And this title was written on her forehead, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and of the abominations of the earth. I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of those who bore testimony to Jesus." Interesting to note then that purple and scarlet have been adopted as the official colours for Roman Catholicism. Here we see them celebrating Easter around the Asherah or Easter pole. It is significant that they would gravitate to this location at this time. Notice also the groves of trees around them. They too are significant. The church is always referred to as a woman in the Bible. The church is in fact called the bride of Christ, and therefore a prostitute is an apostate church that has abandoned its husband and committed adultery with others. The Catholic Church has prostituted itself with the world for centuries in order to acquire land, wealth, power and prestige. It is the richest institution in the world, and much of that wealth was gained by immoral means. The Bible tells us some more about this woman, saying, "She held a golden cup in her hand." Mass in Catholicism is always taken in a golden chalice. They allow the outside to be silver as long as the inside is plated with gold. As for being drunk with the blood of the saints, Christians have often been systematically persecuted wherever the Catholic Church has had supreme power. The Catholic Church refers to Mary as Queen of Heaven, and she was recently given the title of Co-Redemptrix, meaning that she is as responsible for our redemption as Jesus. Now we've heard that title Queen of Heaven before in relation to someone else. Her other titles should remind us of that same woman, the Great Mother, the Virgin Mother, the Celestial Mother, the Mother of God, the Eternal Virgin. These are names given to Mary that were also given to Semiramis or Ashtoreth. In Jeremiah 7:18 we read, "No wonder I am so angry. Watch how the children gather wood and the fathers build sacrificial fires. See how the women knead dough and make cakes to offer to the Queen of Heaven, and they pour out liquid offerings to their other idol gods." God hates this reverence for the so-called Queen of Heaven, and yet the Catholic Church now states that Mary was perfect at birth and without sin. Catholics are taught to pray to Mary as she has in her hands the work of our salvation. In other words, she is idolized. She has been deified. The Catholic Mary is none other than Asherah with a Christian facade. The Catholics did not get rid of Asherah, they simply gave her a new name. They even crown statues of Mary like this. Catholic doctrine states, "The one holy, Catholic and Apostolic Church, as led by the Bishop of Rome, successor to Peter the first Pope, has always venerated the Blessed Virgin Mary, including her sinlessness, for the Church follows Scripture. especially the New Testament, which she herself compiled as perfectly as she follows her tradition. The most obvious blasphemy about this passage is that they claim she is sinless, and therefore nothing less than a goddess. But also notice the more subtle capital letters given to the words she and herself, which also denote Mary as a goddess. Scripture has even been deliberately corrupted in Catholic texts to identify Mary as the person who was said to crush the serpent's head in Genesis 3. In their text it says, "And I will establish a feud between thee and the woman, between thy offspring and hers. She is to crush thy head, while thou dost lie in ambush at her heels." Mary has become a false goddess in the Catholic Church and an antichrist. Pope Pius IX declared that Mary was immaculately conceived, suggesting that Jesus was only divine because Mary was divine first, as the Mother of God. Here's a photo packed with symbolism to finish. The background contains a multitude of 8-pointed stars which we haven't gone into yet, but which actually represents Asherah as well. Then there's a pillar upon which an idol of Mary stands with a crown on her head and a sun symbol behind her head. Symbolism allows hidden information to be communicated in plain sight. Symbols such as these can be found in various other places around the Vatican. They are everywhere, and we'll look at them more in the next part. But to finish this part, a scene from a 90s TV series called The Mists of Avalon, which highlights perfectly how the pagan goddess became Mary.